G'day, folks, and welcome back to Got the Runs. Dressed like your granddad, the one your mum tells you not to worry about. You join me here in Manly, a place where the Two and a Half Men once had the song Men, 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 Manly, Men, Men, Men. There wasn't many Manly performances going on at the Gabba over the last few days. That aside, I'm updating my CV, hoping for the opportunity to lead, manage, or even be the chairman of selector going into the Adelaide Test. That aside, these are all the storylines that you should know about going towards the future. No line, no cry. Australia overlooked veteran off-spinner on a pitch that was likely to bounce, and did bounce exactly how people suspected. Lion ran the drinks out, sat on the sideline, looking glum, looking doomed, but looking like a man who was part of the group project and yet not the person with his name in lights. Joke aside, having bounced like the Gabba and not picking your off-spinner is like having a Ferrari but going for a jog instead. Now, everyone must expect him to be selected for Adelaide going forward, but the four-seam attack looked potent and deadly on a pitch where they pushed the ball up and undid a very fragile England batting lineup. No Cummins, no
problem.
Smith captains the attack fires. With Pat Cummins unavailable through injury and Smith leading the side once again, a lot was put around the shoulders of the famously and acrimoniously sacked skipper from a few years ago. England fans in Perth, we saw you cry on the telly. He wasn't crying this time. Smith led a fairly tactically brilliant and less nuanced Australian side to a dominant display at the Gabba. His batting in the second innings most typified this sort of gladiatorial type of his captaincy, brutal, bogan, if you may. Maybe he's taken notes from Travis Head's, popularity in the media, but going out there and with swashbuckling style, both with the armband in the first innings and the second innings, shows exactly where he's at as a player and as a captain, and that will leave a lot of England fans quaking in their boots. England pick Will Jacks.
Then forget he exists.
Australia's first innings, a token over. Before it was day two, right at the start of it, or right at the end of the session, I should say, and you chuck him off for an over and he goes missing for the rest of the day. As Australia batters continued to bowl and bowl and bowl, he actually then had exactly the same thing happen to him on the start of the third day, where after, towards the dinner break, he bowls another token over. Sure, he had some more overs thrown towards him towards the end of the Australian innings, but that felt more like England trying to justify selection than doing it on meritocracy alone. It's like ordering fireworks with Will Jacks and receiving sparklers, in the sense where you drop Mark Woods isn't selected through injury, and you go with the part-time bowler, part-time batsman, part-time Surrey cartel member. A lot to be said with that. Now, England's first innings batting display, there were some headlines that we should make note of. Root's first 100 in Australia, Crawley's 70-odd, and Jofra Archer wagging like a happy dog at the bottom of the innings. England got 334, considerably higher than the runs they managed to accumulate in Perth. That being said, there were still 4 ducks in the equation. When you compare that to what happened with the Australian innings, which we'll get onto in a few short moments, that reads for very grim reading. Duck it first ball. Anyone can get out first ball, a particular seed. But as you work your way down that and you see the momentum that is generated from a duck, how the bowlers get behind it, how it motivates a collapse, it's surely something England should look at going into Adelaide. A century, a 50 and a cameo, and enough ducks to open a wildlife reserve. That's all you need to know really about our batting performance. Now, Australia feast, 511 all out. Everyone gets a slice. Key contributions from Jake Weatherald, Marnus Labuschagne, Steve Smith, and key tail-ender runs, including Stark's 77. That 511 gave Australia first inning leads of 177 over England's 334. When all players get to double figures and when extras hit double digits, that's not batting, that's buffet mode. It's charity at that stage. England's bowling attack, England's bowling plan, England's fielding settings, all a joke. Now, you should also look at the drops that happened during that. 5 drops. England's fielding goes full masala mix, you could say. On the second day and leading to the third day, a lot of pressure was put on the England fielders, but there were some drops that were uncharacteristic and, to be fair, were dollies in their own right. Jamie Smith to start off the catching collapse, you could say. You know, a routine catch from Travis Head, I should say. You know, that was on 3. He goes and gets 33. It could be worse. However, it set the tone. As soon as that happened, the crowd got on his back more than the monkey on Joe Roots for the last 12 years, and he did not let go. Every throw from the outfield, every underhand from Ollie Pope under the lid, it was enough to leave the sorry glovesman shaking his head, and it was enough to make a lot of England fans appreciate the value of a world-class keeper. And sadly, with Smith, one who just is not. Duckett had 2 at the end of the second day, routine catches. Bardin Cast had one off Joffer Archer. Again, probably the largest dolly of the lot. Notwithstanding, he'd been flogged for 25 hard overs under the baking sun. It's a position where after those 4 drops and looking unfortunately towards the 5th drop, which was attributed to Joe Root, but was indicative of Jamie Smith not diving across to take the ball, which really was his, where England really should look at themselves, get the cradle out, get whatever you can out, boys, on the beach holiday in Noosa, and bloody well work on it. Now, 177 lead. England playing catch-up in their second batting innings. A lot of hope and optimism with England sat at 46 for no wicket going into the dinner break. Now, it lasted 3 overs, Duckett out. Okay, what can we do here? Pope out. Crappy shot. Crawley out. Crappy shot. Brooke, my mate Brooke, well, comes to bat with England's, former captain and talismanic century maker in the first innings. All you gotta do, Harry, all you've gotta do is switch on, mate. Switch on and smell the roses. Because talent gets you so far, but acumen gets you further. That wasn't the case. In the first innings, nearly runs Root out, gets out in the very next ball. In the second innings, gets given out, reprieves it, not out. Very next ball. Terrible shot. Wicket. Goodbye. England crumbling. Smith, I should add at that point, or just before that moment, Joe Root looked comfortable in the first innings. Maybe he himself was smelling the roses. Loose shot, hits the floor, gets an edge off Stark. And then that leads on finally to the last wicket of the second innings of England's batting, which was Jamie Smith. Lasted 13 balls in the Test match. After the jeering on day 2 and the jeering on day 3, you probably could have put your house on what was going on next. Doesn't last many balls. Out. Good night. Bye. 134 for 6 under lights of the pink ball, which was new. Australia made England toil in the field, and that was very clear from what we were seeing with England's batting. They were hot, they were sweaty, they were flogged. But at 46 for nothing, and looking into what could have been going ahead, there was a real hope and optimism that if we got 2 down at close, maybe even 3, that something might have been possible on day 4. Sadly, with 6, it was asking a lot of Stokes and Jacks. Stokes, who at the end of the third day, resolute behind his defence, it was exactly what the England captain needed to, and that was the manly performance of the match. I'm not sure I'm going to award him a pint of beer or a set of Christmas socks for that manly performance, but we have to pick them up for where they come. We haven't had one in the series up to then, and shortly after Stokes, comes to the crease and Jacks comes to the crease, and into that 4th day, people arrive at the ground. We believe, 45 minutes. That's all we've got. It wasn't 45 minutes. It was 3.5 hours of gritty, defensive, Justin Langer-like performance. Stay behind your defence. Leave what you can leave. May the bowlers bowl to you. Change your plans up. Australia were changing. They had to do what they had to do because England were playing how they played. Jeffrey Boycott, wherever he is in Yorkshire or in the sunny Marbella sunshine, would have been like, go on, lads. Absolutely brilliant. Get behind the defence. Leave outside off. It was wonderful to watch. Now, the short-lived life support given by England's batting of Jackson and Stokes, so 96-run partnership, was broken by Steve Smith, absolute worldie, diving to his side. Anyway, the stand lasted that period of time, but unfortunately, when Jacks went, Stokes, with Carey stood up to the stumps, then Michael Neser edges behind. Next, Atkinson, maybe the worst dismissal of the Test. I saw Phil Tufnell, and when Phil Tufnell starts criticising your batting, you got to look at yourself, Augustine. You got to look at yourself, boy. But the ball's short. Brendan Doggett ain't a bowler, boy. Okay, you got 100 at Lords. I know it's a second string or a third string international side. You got it against. Yeah, you got a ton at Lords. Into your ribs, short mid wicket. You're better than that. You got to be better than that. He goes, and then we got 10 and Jack batting. Not going to last long. I believe the last 4 wickets fall for something like 17. The target for Australia, 65. Now, did I put an optimistic, maybe England can, maybe they could just grit through and rip through the attack, Jofra bowling absolute lightning bolt, Atkinson jagging it off a length, maybe Cast, maybe Stokes, maybe me, I don't know. But unfortunately, Head came out with Weatherall, hit some runs, got out. Marnus got out cheaply after his first innings runs. That was a welcome sight. And in came Smudge, a world-class batsman, a person who, as an English fan, you want to hate, but you have to respect. 23 off 9 balls, I think it was in the end. 6s, 4s, chants in the crowd. The cult status of this player grows with the captaincy armband, and I think England maybe thought there was a chance, but he came in at 33 and the innings was done quicker than an episode of The Simpsons. 20 minutes of pure carnage. There was a chorus of jeers at the performance. Sure, the Barmy Army, the most loyal fans in world cricket, are fans that Travis Head and Marnus Labuschagne, when they're fielding on the boundary, danced along to, clapped along to. But at that exact moment, we all saw the writing on the wall, and we saw, unfortunately, all we needed to see about the performance. Atkinson got a couple of wickets. That will improve his mood going forward. England spent 4 days sweating. Australia spent 4 days checking the scoreboard. Now, the series is at 2-0. England playing hope cricket at this stage, and I'll get on to what might happen in the days that might come. But they didn't just lose momentum in this series. They lost to the instructions to reset it. And the true fact of the matter is that, no side since Bradman 36 has come back from 2-0 down. And I'm not quite sure we've got a Bradman-like player in our lineup. I'm not quite sure we've got uncovered pictures. I'm not sure we've got the momentum to bring it all the way back. But at this stage, after whatever it is, 3 and a bit tours without a win, I think the last one was 10-11, final test match at Sydney, the Tremlett wicket to win the Ashes. England's structural problems, fielding, bowling consistency, middle order fragility, it's glaring at this stage, and with no direct ascendance to the throne, one has to imagine some real hard conversations will have to happen, whether that be with me and the boys of the pub ahead of the boys in Noosa. Who knows? Now, speaking of Noosa, a 10-day gap. Noosa or no chance? It's tricky when Ian Beefy Botham maybe releases the England itinerary before the England team had the chance to do so, but it was eye-opening. It coming out before the test even had come to a close, when there was still chance, maybe slim, but it was still a chance that something might have changed. For him to come out, England corroborate the rumours, hotel in Noosa or resort in Noosa, welcome them on Twitter, whatever the case may be. It's not the optics that you want. My great old mother, former PR worker, Big Ange, she'd have been able to give the England team a better PR tip than that. But what you doing, lads? Yeah, I've just been to Noosa. Beautiful people there, great coffee, lovely Italian. Pinot Noir did me a bit dirty, but what are you doing, lads? Okay? Go and do a practice match. Fly back to bloody England if you have to and get a match in on a wet deck. Go to Abu Dhabi on a dry, spicy one. Do what you need to do. Do not go to a beach resort when you're 2-0 down in the biggest series of my lifetime. This was the one you can win, lads. 10-11, I'm in 6th form watching it, failing my A-levels. This is the one I came out for. 20 years of being a fan. 10 years of saving. £20,000 this is going to cost me. There's boys out here for a test. There's boys out here for 2. There's girls out here supporting their boys. There's boys out here supporting their girls. There's people here supporting you, boys. Don't go to Noosa. And Michael Neser, 3 years out in the cold and a fifer on return. Was he cryogenically frozen in the meantime, or is he an informed bowler who knows how to bowl with a pink ball? Look, Australia have one of these every year.
West Indies.
Some were skittled last year. They've had some in Perth. They've had some mostly in Adelaide. And this is obviously the one they've had in Brisbane. They know what they're doing. You had the opportunity in Canberra to send down the team bus, yeah? You could have gone there and you could have changed the passage. You could have changed the script. You could have given people pressing in the media an opportunity to come off your back for a second. The issue is you didn't, yeah? You played golf. You had 5 sessions under lights. You were well prepared, maybe over prepared, which I'll get onto, by the way, BMAC. But you had the chance to change the script. You didn't. And with that, and a bowling plan that could have been created by some toddlers up the road at the kindergarten, one has to be prepared to say whether there is a real think tank there. Tresco, I'm a Somerset fan, my boy, banger. I love you. You were my hero growing up. You saying things like, nah, the batters haven't really spoken about driving on the up. Okay? You tell 11-year-olds if the ball's bouncing, don't be driving, yeah? That's just not what you do, lads. To say that they haven't spoken about that is insulting to cricket fans. We know the rudimentary things needed to be, applied. Just woeful, lads. Absolutely woeful. Look, did Stokes and Jacks bat too long defensively? Did they, encourage or incite that sort of pressure? Maybe. But they needed to show some resolve, and I won't hold that against them, and the England fans don't hold it against them either. But the rest of you lads, with the ball or with the bat, read the bloody basics, yeah? There is an art and science of cricket, okay? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's worked for a few 100,000, whatever the bloody hell it is, years. Just do it better. Stokes speaks in his presser about not being a lack of skill. I'm sorry, it is a lack of skill. Yeah, it's a lack of acumen and nous for some people, but it is a lack of skill. You're being outplayed, but skill is something you can regain, but you need repetition. The more you practice, the luckier you get. England's luck is down the toilet. I can appreciate that, most fans can. But the way to get better is doing the basics better, okay? The Joffre Smith war that we saw in that, batting second innings for Australia that lasted, like I said, about a time it takes to defrost a chicken in the microwave. You're bowling thunderbolts. You're looking sensational from side on. We were at side on, third deck, in the nosebleeds, in the punter seats, and it looked brilliant. It looked like a spectacle under lights, but it wasn't competitive. Smith edges one over his head, hit some beautiful shots, and obviously clobbers Atkinson for 6 to end the match. It's where maybe a flashpoint the series needed. England need to stay away from the casino in Perth. They need to stay away from the golf course in Noosa. They need to stay away from hugs and kisses in the dressing room. There are people out here with a vested interest in you boys. We care about you. We love you. Maybe we shouldn't, but we do. No more of this. Use the Joffre Smithing if you have to. Use the songs that sung so gloriously in your honour to define you as players, not to define us as mugs. Okay? Now, England's changes going into... I think when we speak about over-preparation and what might happen next, those words, I can't remember if it was Channel 7 or Quick Info or TNT Sport or whoever it was, or Channel 9 or ABC or whatever Brendan McCullum said those comments to. Over-preparation is the word that you cannot use. 5 net sessions under lights with a pink ball with preferential batting or the dog ball thrower are not over-preparation. They are excuses that mitigate and that malign the intellect of cricket fans. The Aussies are laughing with those sort of comments. That better for it. But other than that, there's things that will change. There are things that we'll talk about in length going through the next few days. But as the light dims here, I hope that the light won't dim on the rest of this tour. I've been getting the runs. This has got the runs. I'm going to run to the restaurant because my reservation is in 14 minutes' time. Good night.